Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of SBB University, where we are discussing everything from elder law attorneys to financial advisors, care management. This is estate planning and more. We're so glad you could join us today. So I'm going to start with some introductions. We have Miss Britton Swank, who is our elder law attorney. How are you this morning, Britton?
I'm great. Good morning. It's nice to be here.
Perfect. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the field of elder law?
I basically started out as a 19-year-old working as a runner for an attorney, Julie Osterhout, who is an elder law attorney and long since retired. I'll be totally honest, as a 19-year-old, I thought it was not the most exciting career path for me anyway. And it wasn't until years later, when I was in my 20s after graduating from undergrad, that my grandfather had started developing memory issues. So by the time I decided to go back and be an attorney, I knew going into law school that I wanted to spend my law career helping people facing the kinds of issues that my own family was facing. And so I have a practice that's devoted and has always been, I've worked in this field, to estate planning, dealing with long-term care issues, Medicaid, VA, probate, guardianship, trust administration. So all of those things that happen from the time you're planning and trying to get your ducks in a row to the time that someone passes away, but with a real focus on everything that might be happening in between.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of folks wait until something happens before they act. So today we're definitely going to be talking about the purposes of pre-planning. So we're going to roll on to Miss Rena Schlager with Schlager and Levin. How are you this morning?
Very good, very good. And welcome. I'm happy to be here and actually honored to be among this very astute panel. My own background was, because I was thinking as Britton was talking, I never thought I would end up as a financial advisor. I wasn't a 7-year-old saying, oh, I'm going to do this. I was originally in music, violinist, music education. Through certain circumstances, ended up in that music school's business school, and was going into accounting and CPA. And a lot of people in financial planning start either in insurance, which is really product based, or money management, investment management. And my background was an auditor, learning about controls and the big picture and areas of weakness. And so when I joined my husband's firm, I basically didn't have no one told me how to do financial planning. I just looked at the whole person and said, well, what would I want? And I'd want someone to have the total picture of me and partner with me through whatever I need financially or otherwise. And so our firm has taken on that culture, that it's comprehensive wealth management before they kind of came up with that term, and hooking up with attorneys, because that's part of the dynamic, and getting involved really early in the 80s here with all the social services, since most of the clients were elderly. How could you not be connected with what they're going to need along the way? So if a client's in the hospital and calls me and says, they say, I can't go home, what do I do? I, through the various agencies, know and can tell them. So it's been really an evolution of Southwest Florida financial planning. And I just love it. And helping people, like everybody on this panel, has that core of wanting to help people.
Absolutely. And you cover so much more than just financial planning. It's tax season, so we appreciate you being here. I know how busy you are. All right. Next, we have Mr. Jeffrey Testerman, who is joining us from Gallagher Funeral Home. How are you this morning?
Doing great, Amanda. So I'm always so happy to sit on the panels, and especially when we go back to live so we can have interaction. every person sitting here, it's difficult to walk through our doorstep, and I think I'm the hardest one. So Senior Blue Book, we appreciate them taking out that stigma, out the like I have to do it and then we postpone. So it's a setting where we get questions answered, we make sure everybody knows what we're going to do, and the people that are sitting around me make my job so much easier. So when you have your will in place, you have your financials in place, you have your long-term care and your plan in place of what we're going to do throughout your lifespan, at the end, it just makes it so much easier. And then my portion is to take care of your family. Your wishes are met. We make sure if you're a veteran, we take care of any services you may receive through the Veterans Association. If you have things in place you specifically want done for your final disposition, we do those. But this is a great opportunity. So and when we go back to live panels, we would like to see people again. So we're very excited to be here. And thank you again, Amanda.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Gabrielle, last but certainly not least.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thanks for having me here. It's nice to be part of the panel. I'm Gabrielle Sainamore. I'm the marketing director for My Care Manager. We are a geriatric care management company or aging life care management company here in Southwest Florida. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Naples, so I'm a native. But I didn't stay here. I actually decided for college to move to Orlando first, and then I went to the West Coast. I decided that industry-wise, I wanted to explore entertainment. So I lived and worked in Los Angeles. I went to school at Pepperdine. I got my MBA in marketing, and it's an exciting industry. There's a lot to learn. I have much experience that I brought from the entertainment industry. After 10 years in Los Angeles, I decided that I missed the East Coast. I missed my family and everything. And took me to New York City. So I'm actually, recently I'm from New York City, but you can't tell by, talking to me because I'm so friendly and everything. I'm just kidding. But so I lived in New York, lived and worked in New York. I love New York City. It's a great town. I just continue to build my career there. Industry wise, I've varied industry experience, not just entertainment, but a lot of experience in healthcare as well. Last year was a big year for all of us, a lot of changes. That's when I decided to move back to Naples. Naples is safe, it's beautiful. I have family here, so my parents really wanted me to come back, and thought it was the best move for me. My husband, and I have a husband and cats, we all came down last fall, and we felt it was the right move as soon as we got here. And not long after I relocated to Naples, it's when I found My Care Manager. I was studying, I researched before I got here, industries, Southwest Florida, what industries are, the most, the largest, and, where would I fit best? And with my background, I found that senior living or senior care would be, a perfect fit. And, I'm being passionate about senior citizens myself. I found My Care Manager and, found that their holistic approach to care, way that they help elderly maximize their quality of life for as long as possible. It was amazing to me, and just really, fell in love with, just being in this industry. And, I'm honored to work with my care managers and my group. And I'm just happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. They're very lucky to have you. It's like being the daughter that they never have when you're in care management. So I think
Exactly.
it's a very honorable field. So you chose correctly. All right, so let's kick it off. Britton, by the way, for anyone that's watching right now, put your questions in the chat and we'll make sure that you get your answers as soon as possible from the panelists. So we'll start with Britton. Britton, talk to me about what is the single-handedly most important document that a Florida resident should have in place, and why?
So my favorite document to talk about is a durable power of attorney. There are a number of components to having a good estate plan. However, the document that tends to create the most troubles in helping carry out, whether it's a care plan or making sure we have the funds and access to funds to pay for care for someone. It's hands down, having a good durable power of attorney is going to be, I think, one of the best tools that you have in your estate planning toolbox. What I see on a routine basis is people who move to Florida and had documents prepared out of state. They come to Florida, they, go through their routine. The out-of-state power of attorney may work fine for certain types of things. But then what happens is when we have a real change in someone's capacity, for example, or there's a stroke or a major catastrophic event health-wise, and we need to do some real rearranging perhaps of finances or accessing, for example, someone's retirement account to try to pay for care if that became necessary. That's when we find out that the out-of-state power of attorney doesn't work. And that's not when you want to find that out. One of the things about our state law is that we have a lot of safety nets built into our statutory system and framework to provide a backup situation for when people don't have the right documents. So if you don't have a healthcare surrogate, which is your healthcare decision maker, well, the legislature has developed one for you. Now, I personally don't rely on what the legislature thinks is best for me, and I don't think anyone else should either. But there is a statute that will step in and give us some direction, and that's true with people who don't have a will, for example. But there really is no substitute for not having a durable power of attorney that works. In our statutory framework, the substitute, and what ends up happening is we have to go to guardianship court, and it's a necessary part of our legal system. We need that safety net for people, and we're lucky to live in a country where we don't take away people's rights without a lot of due process, and so all of that is very important. However, guardianship is a very expensive process. All that due process costs money. And so it's hard for me to have to look across the table from a caregiver spouse, for example, or adult child and say, I'm sorry, our only choice is to go to court, and we're going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars there instead of that money being available to help the person. So I think that's one of the first things people need to think about. Wills, everybody seems to at least know what that is. Yeah. When you talk about durable power of attorney, I think that there's a real void in terms of people's knowledge of how important that is. I can't tell you how many times I've had a spouse say, well, what do you mean I can't use, get money out of their IRA? We've been married for 50 years. Or what do you mean I can't sell the house?
Right.
So I don't like delivering bad news. So the more I can get ahead of that, the less bad news I have to give. So that's always my first pick. Certainly other important documents, but that tends to be the big troublemaker in my practice.
Now, would a revocable or irrevocable trust be recommended at times? Talk to me about those two different trusts quickly.
So first of all, trusts are a great estate planning tool. And I think that depending on someone's circumstances, it's going to be the best choice. But it's also true that not everybody needs a revocable living trust, for example. And I think there's this misconception in the general public that if you're not someone who has Bill Gates type wealth, that there's no reason for you to have a trust. And that's not true. Mm-hmm. It really depends on the type of assets that you own, who you're trying to benefit. For example, when you pass away, is somebody disabled? Do you have someone with an addiction issue? These are all components. I mean, if we're talking about having a client who has real estate in multiple states, those are all factors that are going to make having a trust as part of your plan, I think, important. And that would lead me to kind of come down in favor of that. But I think people will come in certainly to my office and say, well, I was at Ethel's house yesterday and she says she has a trust, so I need to have a trust. And then we sit down and we look at it and I say, well, that may be the right choice for Ethel and I can prepare a trust for you, but here's why I'm not sure it makes sense for you to do it. It may be that that person can absolutely avoid probate, can plan for potential incapacity, all without ever using a trust or paying for one.
Right.
It depends.
Yeah, it
Typical
does.
lawyer answer. That's always the lawyer answer. It depends.
Yes, it always depends on your individual circumstances. All right, we're going to move it along to Jeffrey. Mainly because I think a lot of people don't realize that your power of attorney actually dies with you. So what are some things that people can do to plan ahead and make sure their wishes are carried out because their power of attorney can't make those changes or carry out their wishes? So talk to me about, I know that's got to be something that happens to you a lot.
It is. And Britton, this perfect follow-up from her, the most important document that we can have a lot of times is the durable power of attorney, where your power of attorney ends at the time of your passing. It's done, it's complete. Your durable power of attorney, if written properly by the attorney, does extend a certain period past the time of death. It allows you to name an individual that can make funeral arrangements for you. And here in Florida, so many of our families are not following us down. So you retire here, you live the Southwest Florida lifestyle with our beaches and beautiful weather, but the family can't come down. So the state of Florida, again, put statutes on us that says, I must go to 12 people even before I can get to that guardian if you're in guardianship. So I have to find a cousin that you've never talked to in 30 years that lives in, Western Kentucky, and they're going to sign your cremation authorization or say, no, they want it to be buried. Where if you have someone who is taking care of you or someone that you've put in charge, that person is immediately named at your time of death in the durable power of attorney. The same with this. Ethel gets all of us. So Ethel tells you also need 12 death certificates. It's individual based for us as well. So, the documents you come in with, we go over, we talk to you, we find out exactly what you've had and what your family needs to do that. And it just makes it so much easier. So again, first step, to go to the lawyer, have your estate plan drawn properly up, go to your financial advisor so you know where you can place things so your money will not run out. They're gonna all of us are going to tell you that you need to do these things to put it into the basket and then tuck the basket away and go live your life, because you don't have to worry. You just kind of have to check it every 2 years-ish, and your financial planner will call. I will not reach out to you or call you, I promise. Once it's all done, we'll take care of you at the end. We'll give you a card. But that's the big thing. Everybody knows the will, and it's in the will. The will doesn't say exactly what you want. It just says that the person who's the personal representative has to pay the bill at the end.
Right.
The other thing we get a lot is, I don't have to worry about that. I have life insurance. With our funeral establishments, we now put money either into escrow trust or into an insurance policy. You're paying for it up front, paying it over time, and it stops. It's a whole life policy. When you have it paid off, there's no more that is charged for those services, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, however long it is between the payoff date and when you pass away. A lot of people, they're advertised on TV. I won't mention their names, but they have a system where you pay until you pass away. So if you're in your 70s and plan to live till 100, you're paying 30 years on this policy that is a fixed amount. So you get a $10,000 policy and you pay over time, you may end up paying $15,000, $20,000 on it, because it's not dollar for dollar, it's dollar for unit. So it's a difference. So all of us working together make sure that we put everything in place. I'm so glad about the durable power of attorney, because that resolves so many issues that we have down here where we do have a guardian or we do have someone taking care of the loved one or the neighbor that they come in to make funeral arrangements, and I'm so sorry they have a child that's estranged for 30 years. I have to go find them and make sure that they sign the cremation authorization.
And that kind of leads me to my next question for you, because I mean, you probably deal, I'm sure Britton does as well, but you probably deal with family blow ups because these things are not discussed. So, talk to me about the importance of not only pre planning, but also discussing your wishes with your family members so there's not that big shock factor. And just like the cost of living is going up, the cost of dying is too. So, why would we want to pre plan for it now? And how does that work?
So exactly. I can incite a riot at my arrangement table by asking what was mom's favorite color. It's that simple. When you put it in your own handwriting, number one, it tells your family exactly what you want, exactly how to carry things out. There's no guesswork. They're not sitting there thinking we should have done or we could have done.
Right.
Same thing with drawing up all your documents, and your wealth management person and your financial planner can be your best friend because they have that all set, all done, and then everything's just distributed so much easier for you. So yes, everything goes up. The I have life insurance mentality doesn't cover the fact that every 10 years a funeral doubles. So simple math, it's $5,000 now, it's 2021. 2031 is expected to be, $10,000. The value of your policy doesn't go up. That money is designed to leave to your family to cover expenses, to cover items that they have to take care of, to pay off your home. And so you leave that in the family. So life insurance is, I would say life insurance is for the living. We have death insurance. It's the same thing, but we have a whole life policy that is for taking care of your funeral, and you don't have to worry about anything else. It locks in the price as of today, once it's paid off. And I have policies that we call the unicorn policies. They're $275 from 1973. Typically in our area, cremation right now in Southwest Florida ranges anywhere between $1,000 to some other firms that are $3,000.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're locally owned and operated, family owned here in Southwest Florida. If somebody does do their pre-arrangements with you, and then they relocate up to Ohio to be closer to their family, how does that work?
So we partner with insurance companies. So we would put you into an insurance. The insurance company pays the balance. So as long as the other funeral home accepts that insurance, they will cover everything that is required by them. So it's a simple cremation is every state, the exact same 5 items. The insurance company says we will cover that cost. So it's nothing out of your family's pocket.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. All right, Gabrielle, how are you?
Good. Thank you.
Now, you are such a special advocate with families, and you probably play a very important role between everyone on the panel here. So what exactly is a geriatric care manager or a life care specialist? Is that what?
Aging life care manager.
Yeah. Talk to me about what those terms mean.
Well, sometimes care management can be confused with home caregiving. Geriatric care management does not involve like household chores, cooking, cleaning, bathing, or any healthcare nursing, but we work together with agencies that do. So we work together. We would be like the communications hub, the facilitator, the advocate. That is like kind of in a nutshell what a care manager does. Care management services, it's a wide range of services and activities, basically to help the elderly manage their health and their lifestyle. One of the big things that care managers do is we plan and coordinate their medical care and other services. We find professional resources for our clients. We reach out to the community. We have referrals to attorneys, insurance agents. We have a great number of companies, people that we work with, but we want to find the best fit for our clients. So that's a big part of our role. Becoming the advocate, that is the care manager's main duty. We are the advocate on behalf of the client and their family. We work a lot with the POA, with the person of authority. That's the one who is typically the main communications link with us. For the client. We facilitate, or the care managers, we facilitate communication among the client's family, the healthcare professionals, their attorneys, caregivers, anyone involved in a decision-making process, decision-making or medical situation with the ones who are there for them. So it's a lot of coordination, whether it be, sometimes mediation is a big factor, counseling. There's a lot of things, support involved as a care manager. Background of care managers, typically social work, psychology. They have degrees in those fields. And so that is, part of a big part of their job, not just taking them to the doctor or, transportation or finding relocation. It's being there, that support system for our clients. And finding the
word counselor behind our names.
Exactly. A counselor, someone to lean on. We'll get calls. We have a 24/7 hotline for our clients. They'll reach out, not just for emergencies, but there's sometimes it's just for comfort. But we're there to answer the call and be that support system for them, the client or the family. And we were talking about family conflict. That's a big thing when it comes to what a care management company does, is helping to resolve or at least manage manage the conflict among the family. And it's challenging. I mean, it's challenging for all the professionals here on the panel.
Yeah.
You try to be the advocate, but there's other parties involved.
Yeah. Who, for example, would be a good candidate for care management?
A good candidate for care management would be a client whose family does not live in the area, does not live locally. A family member will reach out to us. This is pretty common. Grandma or mom, dad, they live home alone and they have medical issues, or they're starting to have some decline. So they're at a loss. I have these conversations frequently. The family they need help and they don't even know where to begin. And sometimes they're not even quite sure what we do. So explain what a care manager does and how we connect them with the right resources. We find, they might say that they don't have a will in place. Wow. So we have, that happens, unfortunately. So we have the professionals, our professionals are there to make sure that all of these things are taken care of. Where part of the assessment is going through where they are, a strategy, short and long term, for their care, including, what their future holds. Sure. And if they have their long and short term life care plans in place, trusts and all of those different needs, insurance. If they don't have it, then we need to know, red flag. Yeah. There's typically it's those out of town clients who need us. And then if there's a crisis, we get that a lot. Mom, dad, grandma has had a fall, or there's an emergency and we're at a loss. We don't even know where to go. So the care manager will be there to support and just assess where they are in their medical or emotional state, and where do we go from there, and just pick up the pieces and make sure that the family has peace of mind. That support system that I've mentioned, it's important to have less stress for all parties and to provide that peace of mind. They live in New York, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, they're in Naples, Florida, that they feel better. There's a care manager there that's going to pick up the phone or, call them or email, keep them up to date.
And following them to their doctor's appointments and being able to report back, because sometimes when even you and I go to the doctor, it doesn't matter how young or how old you are, sometimes it's hard to absorb what all that means. And having that clinical person, that clinical piece there, you're able to relay, the information back to the family in that clinical sense so they can understand it and it's documented. And I think it's also important to talk about one of the reasons that you're on this panel today is it's an intricate part of being able to speak to the financial advisor, the attorney, the funeral specialist, so you know all their wishes and you can be that person that advocates for that senior to let everyone know what their wishes were because you have it in writing.
Exactly. Everything is documented. You know, what their primary care physician says, what's happening at the assisted living facility, and what their attorney. We need to know what their wishes are. So it's to make sure that everyone has a go-to person, a communications hub.
And I'm sure Jeffrey can say this too, but like the worst thing that can happen is that, you know, we don't know what their final wishes are, or they're in a position where they're incapacitated and we didn't even know they had long-term care insurance because they bought it 20 years ago, but didn't really talk about it because nobody wants to talk about long-term care. Nobody wants to talk about death. But these are discussions that have to happen. And it's really more for your family that you're having these discussions versus yourself, because they're the ones that are going to be left dealing with it if you don't discuss it. So super important to make sure that you're talking to your family about not only your final wishes, but what you do have in place other than that, you know. All right, Miss Rena. Now, I always like to ask Rena to talk to me about how she contributes to all of you guys on the panel. So what is the one thing that you would suggest to absolutely everyone as a universal estate planning advice as far as it goes with working with your financial advisor?
So if you are able to bring up the document that I have provided, if you haven't heard in this session from everybody, durable power of attorney, under estate planning, number one, I had proper titling and beneficiaries, and the most important document is durable power of attorney. So if you have one message that you take away from this, is whether you are 20 or 85, you need a durable power of attorney document so that someone can step into your financial shoes and while you're living, make sure the right things are happening for you. And it's so interesting. I had asked to be at the end because I kind of consider myself the living healthy hub, because most people haven't gone to the rules of life, what you should do, class 101, that is not in high schools and is not in universities. And you're just supposed to pick up these things along the way in life. So we sit down with people, and I have an incredible tool that I have developed and have shared with other financial advisors who have used it. I call it the estimate of holdings. It has 6 sections on it, and everything about your life. It's not just about insurance or investments. It's about, number one, when you're talking about end of life, while you're healthy in your 50s, I am sitting there asking, have you made prepaid arrangements? Have you decided cremation or burial? And if you do decide cremation, do you have special wishes about those cremains? And you don't think about that for a financial advisor, but I have literally been the person after a client has passed, telling the kids, oh, by the way, did you know that even though your dad is entitled to be at the Veterans Cemetery in Washington, D.C., he said he wants to be buried in the Gulf, you know, strewn into the waters. And I've actually been on one of those events, and it's amazing. But I had children basically saying, if you didn't tell us, we wouldn't know. So most important, I have throughout the practice is making sure there are beneficiaries on any investment that has an ability for a beneficiary that avoids probate, and you're dictating, you know, what you, whom you want your assets to go to in your life. Just like everyone has echoed, if you want someone in charge that you know, trust, and love, then you can name that person instead of have to go through that guardian process. So I just want to echo that legal document I couldn't say enough about. But I also give people a piece of paper that goes with their important papers. Number one, everyone needs to know where your important papers are and who do you suggest, you the client, who do you want them to call first? So if they only have the attorney, yes, call the attorney. But if you have a financial partner and you call the financial partner after the medical has settled down, I've literally had a client call me that she just fell on her driveway. And I was the call before 911. And she goes, Rena, can you come over? So first of all, you always say yes, because that de-stresses. So I said, of course I'll come over, but tell me what's going on. She tells me she just fell. And at the end of the call, I go, so you agree, let's call 911? Yes, let's call 911. So I'm not the medical first call, but the first call, because we have on this estimate of holdings, every position that these people have, whether it's through our firm or not. You know, if you have comprehensive wealth management as your partner, as opposed to maybe a stockbroker who may call themselves a financial advisor, but all they're following are the stocks and bonds and accounts they have with their firm. So instead, I'm sitting there counting up on each one. There's a long form with cause of death. There's a short form without. Everything insurance company related has to be a long form with cause of death, even though it may not make sense that they need to know, but that's the way it is. We also will tell you whether they need the certified copy versus just a copy, because that's really changed over the years. So you can walk into Jeff's office and say with some confidence, you know I need 12 certificates, or I only need 2 and 2, short and long. We send people to Britain so that they have the documents they need. And in fact, when they come to us with documents, we get copies of everything. We'll read through it. We'll give them the non-attorney, I do not give legal advice. We give them the non-attorney interpretation of what their documents say. And I have people who say, well, that's not what I wanted, or that's what I wanted 20 years ago. That's not what I want now. So we're often sending people to the attorney, and it may take several appointments for them to actually do it, but every appointment we're making sure legal documents are up to date. Back in 2010, Florida changed the legislatively at the state level, the durable power document. So we were sitting there basically saying, you got to call your attorney. Does your document need to be updated? 90% of the time it did. And I talked to some attorneys about why they're not, a lot of them didn't reach out to say, you need to update this. That's for another panel discussion. But the whole point is, when people start failing, if they don't have their family around, we're going to call people like Gabrielle and basically say, here's the person who, just like I work with you on all the aspects financially, now here's someone who's going to help you coordinate your care. And if there's something else she needs, we are interconnected so that we can help you. I also wanted to mention that I personally, in the 80s, I had a friend working for a national cremation way back, $450 I was quoted, and I was just not ready to make that decision back in the 80s. So I did about, I think it's 10 years ago. So 10 would be like in the 2000s, 2010 already, $2,700 for the same thing that was quoted $450. So, Jeff's telling you the truth, how the pricing changes. But now that I did it at $2,700 back a little while ago, my husband didn't make the decision till 2 years later. His was more expensive. I'm locked in, I'm taken care of. So I did have this posted up here because besides that, most important things, I always like to tell people hot topics. This year, tax filing is for 2020. If you are doing the taxes yourself or going to a volunteer, they may not have picked up that if you're not itemizing, people think, oh, well, now I don't get my charitable deductions. This is the first year for 2020. that you can get up to $300 as a charitable deduction if you give those receipts to the preparer, even though you don't itemize. If you're 72 and older and taking required minimum distributions, and maybe you're only taking them because you're forced to by the IRS, if you give any of those dollars directly to a charity, then it comes out of your IRA completely tax-free. If you have life insurance and you think you don't need it, I will tell you that you do if you are married, because at the first passing, the lowest of the two Social Securities disappears. And it is very difficult today to replace lost income. There's the second reminder about durable power document. And I'm saying ladies because in a husband and wife scenario, normally documents or accounts are opened with the husband in the first position. When it comes to credit cards, every person, male or female, needs to have cards that you're in the first position. I had a client who husband passed away. They had probably $20,000 or $30,000 of available credit. He passes away. She has no credit and she had no credit history. So her first card that she opened in her 70s gave her like a $2,000 credit limit, which these days may not be enough. Online wallets and passwords. I had a 22-year-old tragically pass away. He was online with things like a Robinhood account, you know, those brokerage platforms. He had cryptocurrency. No one knew any of his online IDs or passwords, and it's just all gone, just gone. So make sure you know each other's online IDs and passwords. And if you are in the growth mode where you're working so hard and you want to eventually retire, I can't say enough, almost equal to the durable power of attorney document. If you aren't doing something now to create a pension, a guaranteed income stream, like another Social Security, you need to start that today, because time helps to make that happen. And so the earliest you start, the better chance you have of, after working all your life, being able to relax and have a few dollars to help you out there. So there's my estate planning hot topics and most important document. It's just a true fact.
Yeah, and you're such a wealth of knowledge in so many different arenas. So for anybody that is online right now watching this, make sure that you put your questions in the chat and we will get those answered. Rena's expertise obviously flows through financial planning, tax, IRAs, Roths, everything from, gosh, even stuff that I wouldn't know that she knows about, right, Rena?
I won't even go there.
All right, so just quick closing remarks and then we're going to wrap this up. Anybody have anything else that they want to express to our viewers today?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Rhea and I always do this, ladies first. Because I'm going to talk about you.
I think the most important thing is, do not think that you don't have enough money to need this advice. Probate starts with $1, and having the right documents can be the difference between having enough to retire and not to retire, or live comfortably and not live comfortably. So I have no minimums. There are many financial advisors in the area that don't have minimums. You don't need to wait for one Sunday a year for a free financial planning call to get answers to your questions. You know, most of us will talk to you for free and at least an initial visit to see if we have value that we could add. Sure. So take care of yourself and make the calls and reach out and get the support.
Perfect. All right, Jeffrey.
And I was going to talk about Rena. So we all have our professional standards, but Rena being a wealth manager, she has a stipulation with the SEC that you have to reach out to the client every so often. So she's a wealth manager. We all protect your data. It's all safe, but Rena's the one that is kind of, it's not like Ronco, set it and forget it. Her staff's constantly reaching out saying, has anything changed? Is this? So I've had people, she sent me password lists before. You know, we work together as a group, as a collective, and that's it. Senior Blue Book is not the Google of go in and type things. So if you just stop today because of our pretty faces, research Senior Blue Book. Amanda, I want you to tell people how it is. It's what Senior Blue Book is, what it does, because we're not physically in front of people, and the network it creates.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. So Seniors Blue Book is a free resource guide that can be picked up at any CVS or Walgreens back in the pharmacy. It is what I consider the yellow pages for aging well. Everything from senior housing, home care, home health, resources for aging in place, elder law attorneys, care management, financial advice, obviously cremation and funeral arrangements. It is an updated cover though, Rena. We got to get you. So this is what the cover looks like. It is what I like to say to a lot of people is it becomes a very beautiful coaster on your coffee table. And I want to change that. It is a wealth of knowledge for things before you need them. So it's not crisis care, if you will. I mean, obviously, if you're in a crisis, it is something that's very helpful, but it's good to know how to utilize it before you end up in that situation. So there is an ad index in the front that gives you all the different categories. There's hundreds of different categories. And we also do have a national website. It's seniorsbluebook.com with a local homepage. So if you're looking at this video and you live in Denver, Colorado, you can actually get resources from Denver, Colorado by going to our national website. But thanks for that, Jeffrey. I appreciate you reminding me to tell everyone everything about Seniors Blue Book.
Yes, and Amanda Barton, who manages ours here, does work extremely hard to build the good network. So we're not going to say everybody, it is an advertisement, but we all partner. As I said, everything we've told you, where I've known before the families walked in that exactly how many death certificates. I've had the DPA emailed to me before they walked in because we all partner together and work so well and care about people, really and truly do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say none of us are in this for the money. It's a passion that runs deep. So thank you again for your time this morning. I just appreciate all of you so much, and I appreciate the viewers out there and definitely want to hear your questions. So please make sure that you put them in the chat. Also want to give a shout out to Lee Health, who has been kind enough to help us with their platform and getting in front of all of you. So thank you so much.